review for Hail Caesar, directed by the Coen brothers, written by the Coen brothers, starring Josh Brolin, George Clooney, Alden Ehrenreich, Ralph Fiennes, Scarlett Johansson. Huge cast. Pretty much stars Josh Brolin. I'd say he's the star of the movie. It follows a bunch of different characters, but he kind of connects them all. He, like the synopsis, a Hollywood fixer in the 1950s, works to keep the studio stars in line. So his job is to go around and fix situations like, if this actor's drinking too much, then he gets them into rehab or whatever. If this actor's doing this or that, then he goes and fixes it to make sure that the productions are all going smoothly. They're being shot and they're being edited and everything. And one day, George Clooney, who likes to drink too much alcohol. He's known for that, and he kind of goes on these like benders for a couple of days, and he disappears, and then he'll show up again. And one day he's filming this huge epic, this Roman epic, where he's a Roman, and in the end he, becomes a Christian, and because of what happens to Jesus and everything on the cross. And he's about to shoot like the last part of the pivotal parts of the movie, like the end part. And he goes missing because he is kidnapped by these group of people who are communists. And all this happens pretty much right away, so I'm not really spoiling anything. And then Josh Brolin finds out, and at first he thinks he's just drinking and he's on a bender, but then they get a note that they want $100,000 for George Clooney. And that pretty much sets up the rest of the movie. Very good movie. I remember seeing commercial trailers for this, years ago, and I don't know, I didn't think it looked that good, but it's actually really funny, really good movie. The Coen brothers, great directors, great writers. My favorites are Big Lebowski, Raising Arizona, probably No Country for Old Men, but, tons of their movies are really, really good. I've seen Miller's Crossing. That was really good. Even Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is really funny. So this definitely has their kind of quirky, different humor. It's very distinctive. It's kind of hard to, put your finger on, but it's very oddball, quirky humor. But this movie is also just beautifully shot. This has got to be one of their best looking movies because it's in the golden age of the silver age of Hollywood, right? And, it's just beautiful, huge productions, big stars, beautiful women like Scarlett Johansson, and, just absolutely gorgeous productions. This is shot by Deakins. Huge cast too. Wow, I'm looking at the IMDb. It's just crazy. But yeah, Roger Deakins, director of photography. So yeah, he does an amazing job in this. This is definitely one of the best looking movies I've seen in a while. So no complaints there. Definitely a gorgeous movie. And Alden Ehrenreich is in this, and he's really good. Like, he's very good. He plays like this cowboy, and then they want to kind of promote him, put him in more like serious dramas. He has this really funny scene with Ralph Fiennes where he can't say some of these French words, and he's kind of stiff when acting, and he really pisses off Ralph Fiennes, who then goes and complains to Josh Brolin, but Josh Brolin's like, hey man, like, he got cast in your movie, this comes from the top, like, he's not leaving, you're gonna have to work with him. And he's like super angry, but just hilarious scene. Alden Ehrenreich was in that Solo movie, the Star Wars movie. I thought the movie was absolutely terrible. It's a terrible movie. He's not even good in it. Like, I'm sorry, he's bad in that movie. But I mean, that's not his fault. Especially after seeing this, the guy can act, but you know, terrible movie with Star Wars, just miscast. Like, he doesn't really look like a young Harrison Ford to me. Like, I guess a little bit, but not really. And it's funny, he's not on this poster. Channing Tatum is, because he's a bigger name probably, but Channing Tatum isn't even in the movie that much. Alden Ehrenreich's actually in the movie a lot more than him, and he kind of actually is also kind of connects it all together in the end. So total respect to him, good actor. I just really hated that Solo movie, but miscast, bad script. And then also, there was Lord and Miller were directing it. Then they got fired, right? And then they brought in someone else to direct it and rewrote the script. And what a mess of a movie that is. But this is a very good movie, very funny. I definitely recommend it. If you're a fan of the Coen brothers, especially their more comedic movies. I wouldn't say this is like a comedy though. It's a dramatic movie with a lot of comedic elements. I wouldn't say it's like a comedy like The Big Lebowski or Raising Arizona. Like, those are more to me like traditional comedies. But George Clooney's very funny in it too. He definitely kind of plays like an aloof, I don't know if you say he's kind of like an idiot, but just kind of an aloof movie star who, gets kidnapped, and then when he's talking to all of these communists, and he actually starts to actually like them, and actually like starts to agree with them. It's like really funny. And so yeah. But yeah, I really like the movie. Definitely recommend it. Jonah Hill's in a really funny scene too. Um, Tilda Swinton's pretty funny in it because she plays two characters, and they're sisters. They're supposed to be twin sisters, and they're both journalists, and they're trying to get the scoop on a few things that are happening in the movie. Like, one of them kind of gets wind of the kidnapping. One of them is trying to get a scoop on George Clooney on something that happened in one of his first big hits that made him a big star. So, but yeah, I'll get into spoilers now, just a little bit. So yeah, so they're communists, and in the end, Channing Tatum, who's in this musical. And that's another thing in this movie is like the Coen brothers, they just shot, so they shot, part of it's a musical, part of it's an epic, a Roman epic, part of it is like a dramatic scene that Fiennes is shooting with Alden Ehrenreich. So it's just crazy. Like, they're just shooting all of these different movies within a movie. So, I wonder what the budget was for this, actually. Okay, its budget was only 22 million. Wow, it looks like more. Because they're shooting like a bunch of movies within a movie, because Josh Brolin's going around and visiting all of these different movies. He goes into an editing room with Frances McDermott. Um, That was one of the only scenes where I thought the humor didn't really work that well, because she's like editing this video, or this movie. She's wearing a scarf and it gets caught in the editing machine and it starts choking her, and then he has to, like, turn the machine off. And I don't know, that was one of the only scenes where I just did, like, the humor, I was just like, I don't know, that seemed a little out of place. And then she's like, oh, I guess I shouldn't wear scarves. And it's just like, okay, you just almost died. But wow, 22 million. I would have expected like double than that, like 40 million or something for the budget. Wow. So yeah, pretty impressive, honestly, because they're shooting a bunch of different movies. So, but yeah, so Channing Tatum, he's in this movie where he's it's a musical, and Josh Brolin has to pay the communists money in a briefcase, but he can't really shut it. So he's talking to Alden Ehrenreich, and who's actually, like, it's funny because he's shown as being kind of like he can't really act that well in dramatic scenes, but then he actually gives him some really good advice about who probably kidnapped George Clooney, which he's right about, because he's like, look at the extras. And he's like, huh, why? And he's like, well, you go to a scene, like a set, and you see the guy that, like, the cameraman, you see the lighting guy, you see the guy that's holding the boom mic, and you know all them. You're like, oh, that's Bob. Like, that's Gary. Oh yeah, I've seen, I've worked with them for years. He's like, but the extras, you don't really know who they are, and they're kind of in and out of everywhere. And he's like, I don't know. I just, sometimes you get the feeling you can't really trust these guys. So he's like, look at them. And that's actually what happened. Two of the extras, which one was played by Newman from Seinfeld. So just great little casting choices here. There's just so many good actors in this movie. And one of them's by Newman, but they actually drug George Clooney's drink, and then they cut the scene. They're like, okay, take 10. He goes outside, and then he collapses, and then they put him in a car and take him to the communists. So he was actually right about that, which I thought was interesting, because how they portray him early on, and then he's actually a pretty smart guy, and but he can't close the briefcase. And then he asks for Alden Ehrenreich's belt, so then he puts the belt around the briefcase to help keep it shut. And then later on, Alden Ehrenreich is taking this hot actress out on a date, which is all set up by the studio too, which is a funny part of all of this. Like, the studio sets up who they're dating, their relationships. Like, if like Scarlett Johansson has like a kid out of wedlock and they don't like that, so they have to do these, tricks and and everything, which is totally how it was, because like the studios would kind of own the actors back then. Like, you couldn't just go from studio to studio to studio. You were locked into a contract with a studio, and then you worked for Warner Brothers, you worked for Paramount, you worked for RKO, you worked whatever. But yeah, he's out on a date with her, and then he sees Channing Tatum with the briefcase and has the belt around it. He's like getting dinner. Then he leaves, so he follows him to the house that George Clooney's being held at. And that scene's pretty funny too, because he walks in there, and then George Clooney's like just sitting there, and then he tells him like, well, let's leave. And then he's like, oh yeah, they all went to the beach, the communists. And he's like, so we're dealing with commies. But yeah, then they leave, and the police end up coming. Channing Tatum ends up defecting to the Soviet Union in a pretty funny scene in the water, because he's a communist. And then they throw him the money. They're like, here, give this to the Soviet leaders to show how much we love them. And then they end up, and then he ends up dropping the money because his dog also jumps in his arms, and he drops the money in the water. So all the $100,000 just goes in. You know, there's no point for it. It's like the whole thing is just there's no point. So it's pretty hilarious. But but yeah, really entertaining movie. Really liked it. Um, I haven't watched a Coen Brothers movie in a while, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Alden Ehrenreich learned horseback riding, rope tricks, twirling guns, and playing the guitar. He stated twirling the spaghetti mimic the lasso was the hardest part of his role. So he actually did all that. Wow. And he's really good at it. Dolph Lundgren has an uncredited, initially much longer, and almost entirely deleted cameo as a submarine captain. Wow. That's too bad. They don't even show him. I didn't recognize him. I don't even think they show the submarine captain because they kind of just come out of the water and Channing Tatum's waiting for them. Lundgren said he was very honored to play the part, having never expected to be asked for a movie directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Coen brothers have been brainstorming the story for a decade, but never actually wrote anything. George Clooney, as a practical joke, announced Hail Caesar as his next film at a press conference. The Coen received so much publicity over Clooney's statements that they were effectively forced to make the film for real. Wow. Yeah, because he's an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and maybe something else with them, so he's probably friends with them. Well, I'm glad they did, because it's really good, and George Clooney's great in it, so... This is Frances McDormand's eighth collaboration with the Coen brothers. She's also married to Joel Coen. So Dolph Lundgren's role was cut out for time reasons. Okay, well, couldn't you have at least like put him on screen for like 30 seconds? Damn, it's too bad. George Clooney is never seen without his Roman regalia costume. Yeah, the whole movie he's in this Roman outfit, and he has his gladius sword. But yeah, and then in the end, George Clooney ends up like when he's being talked to by Josh Brolin, he ends up like saying all this communist stuff, and like he's like, oh, I really like this and the means of production and all this, and then Josh Brolin just walks up to him and smacks him a couple of times. And he's like, you will go back to that set and you will say those final lines, and it will be good. We will believe it. Like, because like he's like totally enraptured with like communism and Karl Marx now and everything. And yeah, it's just a funny movie. Really liked it. Oh yeah, Christopher Lambert, isn't it? Lambert. Um, I think he plays a director. Yeah. But yeah, Christopher Lambert's in it too. Just amazing cast. I mean, the Highlander himself, and the Kurgan's in it too. And he is in the Roman movie, and he's kind of George Clooney's like right hand man. So it's an amazing cast. But yeah, check it out. Hail Caesar, awesome movie. And like, comment below if you're a Coen Brothers fan. What's your favorite Coen Brothers movie? And I'll see you next time.